Hello, friends. I'm Connie Hubbard. I'm a German American. I met my husband Bob uh, back in 78 in Germany when he was stationed there as an Air Force guy. We've been married for 46 years. We have a son and three grandchildren and an adopted daughter in Louisiana who has lots of children. I wanted to share today how this book came about. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I wrote this book in 98 and it was published in 99. This is not about selling a book. It's not even in print anymore and hasn't been in a long time. But it is the story of how God led me to write this. And it's just a story of his faithfulness and his guidance. And that's what this is about. And so all the glory and credit goes to him. Without his guidance, this would have never happened. And so I just want to share that story with you. So back in the 80s, when we were stationed in Wiesbaden, Germany, with the Air Force, recycling was already pretty well established in Germany, not so much here in the States, but there people had to put out their glass jars in separate containers and put them by the curb. And there were times when I took a glass jar after I emptied it out, ate the pickles, emptied out the jar, and I looked at it and I thought, I just don't want to throw this away. Or, there's something I can do with this. And so since from childhood on, I was always drawn to do some crafty things with stuff that other people disregarded or threw away. That's just, I guess, written in my DNA. And so I would take those glass jars and think, those would make handy containers, pencil jars, pencil holders, whatnot. So I began experimenting and I took those jars and I painted them. I used all kinds of different paints and tried techniques and how to cover up the screw top edge, the lid, the part where the lid goes on. And at the same time, I also learned a technique called Bauernmalerei, which is a Bavarian style folk art painting. And so I painted on wood, and then I thought, well, I could take some of these designs and paint them on glass jars. So pretty soon I had a little collection, and the very first time I started selling them was at a local base flea market. And I found out that people were really interested in it. And so I continued experimenting and collecting my glass jars and painting them. And through the years, this is funny, there were actually times when I looked at a jar in the store and I liked it. I bought it for the jar, not so much for the contents. And I know one time we were in the store and there was a beautiful jar, a large one. It was $10. I don't even remember what was in it, but I said to my husband, I need this jar. And he goes, wow, it's $10. I said, yes, but I can eat the stuff inside, paint the jar and sell it for 20. So yeah, and so we would take walks and go by the containers that people put out on the curb and pick out glass jars from their recycling. I take them home and wash off the labels and paint them. So the next thing that happened, and we would ping pong back and forth between the States and Europe. We're stationed in Illinois and then in Sicily and then to California and then back to Germany again. And throughout that time, I just mainly painted jars for myself and for friends. And then when we were stationed in Florida, that was my husband's last duty station. He did a total of 22 years in the Air Force. And I met my friend Helen again who was an excellent decorative painter, and she did craft shows, and she inspired me and encouraged me. And for the first time, I was really serious about selling my jars. To me, it seemed like a giant leap of faith to put them in a co-op to sell them. But they were so successful, and nobody at that time painted jars. So it was a real novelty. And my jars sold out. You know, I did a craft show with her once, and I sold out all my jars. And often people came up to me and asked me, how do you do this? What kinds of paints do you use? And um, then we moved to Lima, New York to go to Bible school. I attended Elam Bible Institute for 3 years. And it came really handy that I had something that I could sell. And so I did a lot of craft shows and sold so many jars. It was really successful. I also had prayed for an apartment that would allow me to do this craft because I needed space. And God blessed us, and He provided us with the only apartment on that campus that had wall-to-wall shelves in a little hallway between the rooms, you know, and the bathroom. There was this little hallway and had wall-to-wall shelves. That was perfect for storing all my jars. And I was really, really happy about that, and thanked God often, yeah, for that provision. So my husband and I were both full-time students, and I was able to, you know, pretty much pay for our groceries and, you know, all the extras with my jar money. Plus, people came to my house if they needed gifts or wanted something, you know, that for themselves and needed something, and buy it for me. So that was really a win-win situation. Plus, glass jars were free, and the little bit of money I spent on the paint wasn't that much. So God really blessed us by having this extra income. And then our son at 17 and a half joined the Air Force in 98. And throughout that summer, I felt like God's hand on my shoulder, nudging me. And I kept hearing, write the book, write the book. And what was a small idea that even scared me just became more and more of a possibility. Could I actually do it? I had no idea how to even go about it. But this is what happened. Then I felt led to take a summer class, which freed me up and freed up an entire afternoon in the following semester. And so I asked my friend Helen, whom I kept in touch with in Florida, and I said, hey, you have a lot of craft books. How can I find a publisher who might even be interested in this? She gave me a few books during one of our visits there in Florida. And I said, okay, I'll look at them. So I took some pictures of my work and explained in a letter what I was doing and sent it to a random publisher because I really didn't know. Just prayed about it and said, okay, this one looks good to me. So I forgot about it. And a few weeks later, I received a call from the publisher, and she was all excited and said, there's not a book like this on the market. I want to be one to publish your book. How soon can you do it? I was terrified. I thought, oh my God. And I just said, well, I think it was September by then. And I thought, well, I should be able to do it by the end of the year. I had no idea, people. So after I hung up with her, my husband and I went for a walk, and the whole time I was like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? I committed to something. I don't even know what to do. And he encouraged me and he said, you can do it. I prayed a lot. And then I never had even taken a craft book and used it. I've just did my designs and my painting. I've used the books to look at the pictures, but I never really read the description. And now I was supposed to write them, write the instructions. Um, it was a big step, but I prayed. I prayed a lot. And the Lord helped me. I would read those books and just see how they were laid out and how the instructions were written. And so I took it like that was a template for me. And I painted jars with my original designs. And I have to say, I'm not a really great painter. And some of my designs were pretty simple, but the country motifs, apples, Americana, sunflowers were all the rage then at that time. And so I just kind of stuck with those appealing motifs and pictures. And I think, and some of the elements of my previous Bauernmalerei, more of the Bavarian folk art elements, I brought in also. So let's see. I wrote down a few notes to keep myself on track. So yeah, I kept selling my jars. And then, but those 3 months when I painted them for the book, I really had to concentrate on that. And my husband, God bless him, he took over most of the housework and he kept me on track with my classes. And he really kept me freed up so I could sit down and paint my jars and write my instructions. Without him, I could have never done it. And let's see, I was able, yeah, so I painted it in about 3 months. I painted all the jars I needed for the book and wrote the instructions. Now, my publisher, Susan Shiwi from out of Portland, Oregon, she sent me a whole palette of the Americana Deco Art acrylic paints and her brushes. And all I had to do and really pay for was to ship all of my finished jars to Oregon so they could professionally photograph it for the book, and then they sent them back to me. I have all but one jar from that book. Everything else I gave away. This is still from the book, but everything was given away over the years. And let's see. So the book came out in 99. My husband and I did a missions trip to India for 5 weeks. And when we came back, yeah, that was in January. When we came back, the book came out and it was successful. I was just blown away because I received royalties for about 5 years. And I was able to give around $6,000 to my son, who was stationed in Alaska, then his first duty station, and he needed a reliable car. And then after Bible school, we went back to Florida and did some part-time missions work, trips to Mexico mainly, where we oversaw some missions teams. And these royalties from the book was an extra income that we needed at the time. So it was a blessing. So again, I want to reiterate, the book's no longer in print and hasn't been for a long time, but it's the story about how God led me to do this. He gave me the idea. He gave me the encouragement. He gave me the house with the shelves, the room to do it. He gave me the inspiration. He gave me help through my husband to free up my time. He gave me courage from his word and from the Spirit. There were times when I had a jar in my hand and I thought about that I was going to do this for a book that was going to be in print, and my hand literally started trembling. And I had to refocus. Just, God, you gave me the idea, you led me here. I can do this. I can do this. And keep me steady. He gave me the success. And you know, folks, at that time, I didn't know how to do a book launch. I learned years later how when people publish a book, how they do a launch. We didn't have social media at the time. I mean, we had a computer, but we mainly used it for the word processor. There was nothing like we have now. So I just kind of, and I was very timid. I remember going to my pastor at the time and just like, I wrote this book. I didn't know how to, promote the book, but I really didn't have to because the publisher sold the book. And when you think about the first year, I received between $900 and $1,000 in royalties. It trickled down every year. It was a little bit less until the last year. It was maybe $300-400 a month. But that's back in the 90s, early 2000. That was still quite a bit. And it was such a blessing. So I can only give praise and glory to God. And I didn't even, now think about this, I only got 10%. That was only 10%. So the publisher did pretty good with my book, I would say. Um, I'm going to add a flip through at the end of this video. And I just wanted to read from what I wrote in a book from the author. I grew up in Bavaria, Germany, where I started painting folk art flowers a long time ago. During the 20 years, my husband was in the Air Force. Actually, he was 22. I was 20 with him. We moved every 2 or 3 years from one continent to another. Painting helped me to make each place a home, sometimes despite limited funds and supplies. It was during those years I started to play around with decorating plain glass jars. I would have never guessed then that painting jars would someday help us pay our way through Bible school, where my husband and I are now training to become missionaries. Remember, I wrote this while we were still in Bible school. The overwhelming success at craft shows and the many people who ask me, how do you do these, has given me the desire to share the joy of turning ordinary jars into beautiful and practical pieces for your home and gifts for your friends. And the dedication of this book was to my friend Helen Tibbetts. We were miraculously reunited after 3 years of not knowing where each of us lived. And I thank her for all her encouragement and support. And a special thanks to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who gives us beautiful gifts to enjoy and to share. And to my husband, who was a big, big help. And also my son, Daniel, who was an encouragement and support to me during my years of painting jars. And to all my friends who collected their empty jars for me, to all who cheered me on and helped to make this a reality. There were times I was in a friend's house and I saw an empty jar on their counter, and I'd be like, "You're not going to throw this away, are you? Why, do you want it? Oh, yes, I would love to have it." It was funny, but I always appreciated it. Yeah, so I want to show you a couple of my jars that I did after I wrote the book in recent years, and some of the uses that I have for them. I painted roses on this little baby food jar, and I used this in a bathroom for this. And another one, oh, this is in a book, and is one of my best-selling jars, the flag art Americana. And I painted so many during those years, so many of them. I also liked, these have my little spoons in them, just very simple design. And this one, another baby food jar, I cut out a line of a song from a hymn book. It says, "Tell me the old story of Jesus and his love," and decorated this way. So decoupaging is a quick, easy way that anybody can do it. I did a couple of these for gingerbread jars, and these are cutouts from a fabric. And I attached them or decoupaged them onto the jar with Mod Podge. You can also use, and I don't have a model of that, you can use napkins, decorative napkins. Or you could do something simple like this. I've done this. You're loved. A simple jar. I keep my brushes and combs in there in the bathroom. Now, wherever I go, I see painted jars. Back then, when I wrote this book, there were none. And there was nothing like this on the market. So this was really a first. And now people are painting jars, using them for candle holders, all kinds of different things. What else can I say? I just hope this inspires somebody to follow the prompting of the Lord. That's what I did. I had no idea where this prompting would lead to when I first felt that nudge. Write the book, write the book. Just followed the breadcrumbs of his leading. And there are some sites that might still have a copy. I don't have any extras myself. So again, isn't about selling anything, but just hopefully inspiring someone to follow the nudging and leading of the Lord. You never know where it will lead to. And with that, we'll go to the flip through of the book. Blessings. Here is the promised flip through my book, Painted Jars. This is the front cover, the inside about the dedication, special thanks, a supply list and general information about jars. And here is a page about how I process the jars from the beginning to the end, and the paints that I used, basically general wall paint. And I brushed it on and then dabbed it with a sponge to minimize the brush strokes. Tips and techniques. And here begins the instructions, the gingerbread boy and girl, poinsettias, little angels, friendship jars, snowman. Here is some of my Bavarian folk art, more snowman, bears with different sayings, more bears, fruit basket with bird. That was painted on a very large jar that went to a special friend. Okay, come on. Here is my beehive, my honey jar, the Edelweiss, blue jar. Oh, here are some fall jars with, this was inspired by my husband, Real Men Do Dishes. Real Men Do Dishes. some more folk art and Happy Harvest jar, more pumpkins. Friends are the flowers in life, and then my apple jars. I sold a lot of them. They were very popular as teacher gifts. Here, teaching is to touch a life forever. A+ teacher, teacher's rule. Then the apple jars. Oh, they were very popular. I painted lots and lots of apple jars. Angels. The moose with real men do dishes. More instructions and little extras. Then the Americana. Painted lots and lots of these jars. Sunflowers. I like the saying, friendship is having a shoulder to lean on. And the end. Here's some more farm theme jars, and on the back, sunflowers. Here is a little bonus clip. This is a can, and this could be also used on a jar, but this is an example of decoupaging with designer napkins. And this is really easy and fun to do, and there's lots of instructions on the internet and YouTube videos on how to do that. But basically you base coat a jar or a can, and then you decoupage on the designer napkin just the first layer. They have usually 3 layers with clear varnish, and then voila, you have a decorated jar or can.